Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm, picking up right where we left off. So we said aerationality is sensorality. The act of putting a hole into something making something porous is sensorality. But what we're really doing, like we said, is we're showing that if we add prefix and suffix, if we extend certain base words, and you connect them logically, you can reduce them. You can, like we said, the internet is the World Wide Web, and then a net is a web. We can do the same thing here. We can just say aerationality is sensorality, so we can say rationality is sorality. We talked about business is busyness, and so what can we really see or demonstrate with that? Because it's logically consistent. Crazy is to craziness, lazy is to laziness, busy is to busyness, and the only available spelling is business. But there's a clear difference, right? Business is 2 syllables, and busyness is 3 syllables. And so we have this fundamental stability of 2, and so that's our stabilized dynamic. And so do we need 3 syllables to have a definition? Do we need 3 words to have a definition? Very clear, to be consistent with 3 dimensions, we need 3 syllables or 3 words. Or 3 letters. How far can we take the consistency? And so we have, it's just business, but also business isn't well defined, right? If I said I'm going to go do business, what exactly are you doing? Are you doing work? Are you creating value? What exactly is a business? And right, business logically makes sense. It's busy. If you have something to do, you're in business. So it's more than just a play on words. It's connecting syllability to an undefined word that people use every single day. And again, the base is sign. We went through that last episode, but the phrase, it's nothing personal, it's just business, right? That's exactly logically incorrect. The best business is built on personal connections. So it's nothing personal, it's just business. Business is personal. So when we have another example of these things where it's like, a lot of times you'll see that in a mob movie or just even some sort of shitty business practice. Well, it's like, I'm just trying to get to the money. It's like, okay, but if you really, in actuality, if you want to build good business, you build good relationships. So business is personal. And just to do a little throwback, if you've followed this, you've seen we're recycling, we're reiterating of lecture titles that I've already given. So just to refresh on some of these big overarching logical statements, and remember, all we're doing is refining them. We're just making them more specific, but the logic holds in generality, such as you can't say what you don't know, is the general logical form of the fundamental theorem of logic. You say when you don't know something. And so, but you can't say what you don't know literally, right? If I were to try to give you a lecture on manga, anime, cartoons, I couldn't because I don't know anything about it. And so you literally can't say what you don't know, and the physical evidence that's overwhelmingly apparent is you say I do it, you do it, everybody does it. And it's because, again, when you're speaking, you're forming a rhythm. And so there's a very clear, if I were to pause for an inordinate amount of time, you'd notice it would strike you as strange. And so you're trying to fill that rhythm, and you just don't know what to say next, so you say It's just overwhelmingly apparent. But you can't say what you don't know. Spelling a word constructs a variable, sensorality, our specific solution, and context defines it. And now, again, remember, words are defined in generality. How do they relate to other words? So context is literally building their usage in relation to other words, showing that sore, when you tense up your muscles, you get sore, that you're preserving that syllable for sorality, sensorality, and then you have sensation. And so we have that dichotomy of sensation and sorality. We connect with that to sonality, personality. And so we've constructed that word, and now we're refining that definition by just demonstrating how that form of that word is already being used. And so we're demonstrating the context, and then once we build the context to a certain point, the word will literally iterate through, and it'll be at our next axiom. And then we also said, how words work and why it matters. Was literally the first title of language litigation and integration, right? How words work is they iterate. Why does it matter? What matters? influentiality matters, right? We've defined fluency rigorously with its natural definition. And so like we're answering the questions that we ask ourselves. And again, these are titles, and so like these forms of these solutions have already been proven in a more general sense, and I'm just iterating them to a more specific solution. But again, all I can do is reprove the things that I've already proven, and that it is what it is the general form of all solutions. Vibration is the base, rhythm is the efficiency operator of momentum in dimension 3, the things we've already talked about in this series. And so I just want to keep, like I'm saying, we're just refining, we're literally cycling through that logic, and there'll be just some apparent word that just locks all of this into place. Ignorance is the basis of hate, meaning simply if you don't know something, it's very apparent. If you simply just don't know something, and it's because it's relating to insecurity. Insecurity is proportional to ignorance. The more you don't know something, the more you don't feel comfortable with a given situation, the more you're going to hate it or dislike it or feel uncomfortable or put it off. And so whether that's people or just learning something new in general. And so again, just another proportionality that we can simply just state. Insecurity is proportional to ignorance. So again, any racism, stereotyping, condescension, they're all just projection, right? I still think Freud had the best, not any physicist, but Sigmund Freud had the best all-encapsulating concept of what is going on with human beings. It is projection, right? And so they blurt out things that are true about themselves, and like they're afraid of the other person, so they say the other person's really bad. It's just that they're just ignorant. And so again, remember, we've always drawn this difference between ignorance and arrogance. Ignorance is just meaning you don't know something. Arrogance meaning you confidently don't know something. So arrogance is a problem. Ignorance, if you attempt to change or to grow or to learn, it's not a problem. Rating is gauging, right? We said irrationality, ration or rating. Which one? But sensorality, sensor rate, sensor rating. And so the base is rating, and then now we have to connect it to language, right? And the base of language is gauge. So rating is gauging, right? What is rating? Rating is scoring something, grading something. What is gauging? Gauging is testing something, calibrating something. But we can relate the base rate. How does rate relate to gauge? A gauge is a sensor. But what's the difference? What's the difference between a rate and a gauge? Well, we just kind of described the different concepts the different words go to. But we're getting vibrating, right? The base is I rating, and then the basis of I rating is rating. So again, like there's always like two bases of a word, or is it? It's pretty much. I'm conjecturing that pretty heavily. There's only two base words or two iterations of a base word. You have one too many. You have absorb, absorbing, absorption. So it's again very clear that there's one and two differences, and then many or something. Still, again, the numerics doesn't really matter to me. It's just personal. It's of no consequence. But vibration correlates, and that's physically, right? If you have a piano string and you play the A minor chord, and you have other piano strings tuned to that, it's literally going to correlate. It's physically going to synchronize and cause it to vibrate as well. And so both vibration and rhythm synchronize, right? If you're walking down a hallway and you start doing this head shake, fake out move, because your movement is literally synchronizing. If you're harmonizing and singing a song and you're singing in key, you're correlating. Literally, your vibration is literally correlating. It's not causing. In some cases, it is causation as well, but vibration physically causes movement. We went over that, and it physically correlates as well. So I guess again, we're trying to rate, relate, obviously clear extension. So now we're trying to expand that base of rate into a word form that's very clear and connect these two. Rating, sensor rating, language, again, just sifting through all of this logic, continually trying to find our solidifying piece of logic. But again, that's when you say that resonates with me, that makes sense, your vibration is literally correlating. Entanglement is synchronicity. Again, you can literally see the word tangle built on angle with the N tangle. So again, literally the word is described by all of the properties we've already established. But entanglement is synchronicity. Again, remember, rhythm and vibration synchronize. So when you have entanglement, you just have one state. When that state gets broken, the two particles feel it at the same exact time. And the quantum wave function is always collapsed because everything is touching, but everything is connected, but nothing is touching. And every measurement is an act of physical interaction. But measurement is interaction. So that's that. Sensorality with a C is algorithmicality, right? An rhythm is automated. Sensorality is automated or autonomous if it's in a sentient being. An algorithm is a sensor with a C. Choice sensors with an S. Sensorality is not autonomous. Why do I have that? I have sensorality is not autonomous. No, sensorality is autonomous. Sensorality does not have agency, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Autonomous. Okay, no, so autonomous is different than automatic. Sensorality with a C is automatic. Sensorality with a C is not autonomous, meaning it can't control itself. So we can just simply state a very powerful, we can call it a fundamental theorem. It can be mathematics, linguistics, or physics. And if you haven't caught on yet, what we're doing is we have to literally establish the fundamental theorem of sensorality, and it has to use like senses or sorates. It has to use that form in a base. It has to connect two other logical things because we need three words to define a new axiom. It has to be the verb because it has to be the connecting word form. And so what we have to do is we have to push the logic out to have a fundamental theorem of sensorality, meaning the most general thing we can say about this physical concept that we've identified. And by we, I mean me. But we can say of math, physics, and linguistics, range degenerates into base. Right? If I'm an atom and I receive energy or from momentum, and in my electron jumps up an orbital level because it's discrete, and mass has definite properties, and so it jumps up an orbital level, right? That's its physical range. It's literally more distant from the nucleus. And then when it loses that energy, when it radiates it off, shoots off a photon, which that's not true, but it vibrates out momentum and it returns to its ground state energy level. Its range is degenerating into a base. When you look at a word and deconstruct it into a smaller word, you're degenerating the range of that word into a base. If you're in mathematics and you're factoring a polynomial, you're rooting something to its base. A range degenerates into a base. So sensorality with an S degenerates into sensorality with a C. Sorry, I'm trying to talk because like literally I'll harmonize with the with the microphone on the camera, so it might be hard to hear me sometimes, but I'm talking in a normal tone that I would talk. Rhythm degenerates into vibration, right? If something is moving, it can't move forever, right? Nothing is completely efficient, perpetual motion doesn't exist, so it's going to degenerate, it's going to move less and less and less, and then sooner or later it's not going to be moving at all, it's going to be vibrating. So physically, rhythm degenerates into vibration. And so now our goal is to specifically find we need sorality, sensorating, ensurating, some form of that word, connecting as a verb from one concept to another. We'll have our three unique elements, progressing our logic, and establishing a new fundamental axiom. So we're so close, don't know what it is. The solution will present itself when it does. What is the relationship of work and power? Just another one of those things, just vocalize all of these questions, but they're obviously proportional. The more power you have, the more work you can do. But what is exponentiation? What exponentiates? What grows rapidly? And let's look at it numerically. Like I said, typically I always stick to physics and linguistics, but sometimes I do math, if you want to call it that. But what I do in physics and linguistics encompasses of all of what you guys identify as mathematics. But right, we have a base 2, right? So we'll just have the 2. Some of this will be on the screen, some not. But 2 raised to the 0th power is 1. And so I don't really like that. That doesn't really, again, 0 is not a number. There are no numbers at all, but 0 cannot represent anything. It's literally what its natural definition is. And so, right, when you're saying 2, I'm timesing 2 0 times. It's like, so 2 times 0 always gives you 0, but it doesn't, I don't like that logically, it doesn't mean anything. Super nuanced, it's not gonna affect anybody. But it doesn't really mean anything. But generalized, if the base isn't 2, n to the 0 always gives you 1. Just meaning if you have a base and you times it 0 times, but remember you start with something. You have a base, you have a basis. And so if you can't have basis 0 times because something exists and then it exists 0 times, it doesn't make any sense. But regardless, n to a 0 is 1. But 2 to the first power, you get 2, right? And then generalized trivially, n to 1 is n. Base 2 times itself 1 time is itself. But you're not growing. That's the point, is that they're exponents. You're writing them in exponential form, right? And a cardinal number you're writing is assumed to be to the exponent of 1, but you're not growing. And so that's what I want to say, is they're stabilized numerically, is those numbers don't grow. But anything 2 or more, right, if you have 2 to the second power or more, it's a growing. It's right, 4 is more than 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Right? So now we've graduated from 1 plus 1 to 2 plus 2. Big steps here, boys and girls. But right, wherever 2 or more are gathered, right, you have an exponentiation. Like, it represents physical growth, compound interest, puberty, rapid expansion of the universe, whatever. But n to the 0th power gives you 1. That's not growing at all. And n to the first power is not growing. It's the base is staying the same. So you have to have an exponent equal to or greater than 2 to actually have exponentiation, to numerically represent physical growth. So that is what I have today. Since doing another massive episode yesterday, followed again this past 3 months of just absolutely been a monster month streak for math. But like I said, I always do these things. And it's just, if I write them down, I can form them into lectures like this trivially. It's just, I still have to put in the work. And when I don't get the dollar bills for the work I put in, I don't like to put in the work because it doesn't slow me down personally. But then it's just like I can just do this stuff. It's nothing. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.